So let's have at it here. I want to go over both of these. I'm going to go over just sections of the webquest, sections that are more important than others, just due to the lack of time that we have. We have an hour and 20 minutes left, so I want to make sure that I get over the important stuff on the webquest, and then I want to go over all of the monohybrid crosses, because we are going to do some more monohybrid crosses today. So, as far as Gregor Mendel goes, it's going to make me do the green screen. I am not overly concerned if you know exactly how Gregor Mendel did his experiments. I want you to know the basics of who he was, that he used pea plants. I want you to know a few reasons why he used pea plants, why pea plants were a good organism to use. But the big part here was these vocabulary lists that I had you look at. These are going to be important because you will see these vocabularies for the next month. All right, in any other genetics course or biology course that you may take outside of high school, these are the cornerstone of genetics. So let's have a quick look at these here. As far as alleles go, I think, generally speaking, you may have an idea of what an allele is. What do you have for? Who can tell me what the definition of an allele is? You're given a great hand gesture. Okay, all right, so two letters that express the dominant and recessive traits. You are very close. So by definition, guys, an allele is two forms of the same trait. So based on what Quinn was telling us using his incredible hand gestures, he was trying to tell us this, that if we have two homologous chromosomes, what are homologous chromosomes? The same, all right? You get one from dad, one from mom. If they have the same genes on them, they are homologous. Now, alleles are two different forms of a trait that are found on homologous chromosomes. So if this is, I'm going to just say chromosome pair number 1, and in this area it codes for widow's peak. I'm picking a very general characterization there. If this is for widow's peak, it's two different forms of the same trait. So if a widow's peak is, apparently I'm supposed to go get IT for this, but I'm not going to because I don't think you do. Yeah, you don't. IT has been spending months trying to figure it out. Yeah, it has nothing to do with that. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it right now. All right. So if widow's peak, guys, as far as alleles go, if widow's peak is dominant, how do we represent that? Uppercase. So we'll use uppercase P. If it's a flat line on the forehead is recessive, it's a lowercase p. So those are two different alleles. Those are alleles for the same trait, hairline. Okay? Heterozygous. What does heterozygous mean? Different. Good. So it's going to be two different alleles, which will be shown in this case of big P, little p. Homozygous. Two of the same alleles. That could be shown as big P, or little p. Those are homozygous. Homozygous dominant, homozygous recessive. Okay? Yes?
I kind of remember back in middle school, like, we wouldn't just use the same letters, but we'd have, like, a Q and an S for our tables.
You may be, when we're doing incomplete dominance, you may have done that, but not for this. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Quinn?
Is there like universally are one trait dominant over the other, like brown eyes and blue eyes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brown eyes are dominant.
Yes. Yeah, brown eyes are dominant, blue eyes are recessive. Green eyes are complicated. When we're dealing with eye color, guys, eyes are not as simple as a one trait on the gene. There's 3 or 4 different traits that make up eye color. So it's not as simple as this as far as eye color goes. All right? Who can tell me what a trait is?
A characteristic of chromosome.
Sure, a characteristic. I will say a physical characteristic. I'm going to erase these to give myself space. Or I can just do that and erase everything. A physical characteristic. Good? Chromosome. This is something you guys have to know. Joseph, what's a chromosome? Say that again? A linear strand of DNA, a highly coiled strand of DNA. All right? So I'm just going to say highly coiled DNA. It's imperative that you remember back to when we learned about DNA that the order of those bases in the DNA, guys, is what is going to give you the traits that you have. All right? So if the base pairs change locations or they change letters, that's a mutation. That's in turn going to change a trait that you may have. Phenotype. Who can explain what a phenotype is?
Phenotype is the physical.
Yeah, physical. We'll say physical representation of a trait. And the way I told you guys about it last class, you can, I'm not going to say you can always see a phenotype, but a phenotype is the expression of that trait. All right? Physical expression of a trait. Genotype. How do we show a genotype? It's not physically expressed. It's the two alleles. It's the allele combination. So I can just say, you know, big P, big P, big P, little p, little p, little p. So it's the genetic code of it. Sure. It's the combination of the two alleles. That's what the genotype is. Recessive, will it get expressed or not expressed? Well, when will a recessive trait get expressed? Good. Only when it's paired with another recessive trait. Dominant, when will that get expressed?
All the time.
All the time. If there's a dominant allele, if you get one dominant allele from one of your parents, that's the trait that you're going to have that's going to be shown. All right? P1, what's the P1 generation? Parent. F1. Anyone know what F stands for? Filial. So we're going to make it a lot easier. The F stands for filial, but the F1 generation is the first, I'm going to say, child generation. F2, it's the second child generation. So when these children, I'm saying children as far as the second generation breed and they produce more offspring, that's going to be the F2 generation. Uppercase letter, dominant. Lowercase letter, recessive. Good. Gamete. This is a term that you're going to hear a lot. What's a gamete? There it is. Reproductive cells. It's the sex cells. Sperm and egg. Good. Very good. So any questions with that vocabulary list? All right. Let's move on with those. From those, I should say. Again, I'm going to skip over the 7 traits that Mendel studied. I think most people had those. He studied seed shape, seed color, pod shape, flower color, height of the plant, position of the flower on the plant. So those, I think I got all 7 there. So those were the 7 things that he studied regarding the pea plant. Now, number 2, this is a good question. How might the genotype from an individual pea plant, homozygous dominant for purple flowers, be represented? How might a heterozygous individual be represented? And what about an individual representing a recessive trait? So pure purple. Remember, guys, a purebred will have the same uppercase or lowercase, but a pure purple flower, purple is dominant, big P, or I don't care what letters you used, capital. Hybrid purple means you get a recessive trait and a dominant trait, allele I should say, big little, and pure white is purely recessive, little p. Yes?
Like, I remember learning about, like, blending of...
That's incomplete dominance, and that is what you talked about using the 2 different letters. Yeah, we're going to get to that. All right?
I'm just so pumped.
You're so pumped about the genetics here. So guys, let me point something out here quickly. Let me have your attention. So Andre brought up a point about, he used the term blending of traits. Understand that when we're talking about Mendelian genetics, which is the mode of transmission we're talking about now, when you get a dominant and a recessive trait, so when two alleles code for a trait, there's no such thing as blending. You are not a blend of your parents. So,
You're one or the other.
yes, you have one trait from your mom that's going to show or one trait from your dad that's going to show. You're not a blend of them. Okay? But there is a case, there is a mode of transmission that does sort of blend. We're going to get to that. So hold on to your seats. Does anyone need me to go over these? Does anyone not get any specific ones? Actually, I do want to point, I want to show you I want to click on one of these links. One of the animations that you were supposed to watch is, in my opinion, a very, very helpful animation, and I'm hoping you guys took the time to watch these quick animations. Which one was it? Is it heredity or a trait? I believe it was... I know, it's high pressure here. What? They're beautiful.
Oh yeah, someone else.
Everyone's beautiful in their own way.
All right, we're starting here with this incredible animation of the sperm cell and the egg cell. You notice, guys, that we had 23 chromosomes in the sperm cell, 23 chromosomes in the egg cell. When they fertilize, you get an embryo with 46 chromosomes. That's you. You have 46. Okay? Now, what I wanted to point out was this. This is why, which is one of the biggest foundations that I want you to understand coming out of this unit in genetics. I want you to understand why you don't look exactly like your brothers or sisters if you have them. Understand that sperm cells and egg cells, they are not the same. Men will have millions of sperm cells. Women will have millions of egg cells. The combinations of those alleles are going to be different combinations. So what you're seeing up here, dad's chromosomes, mom's chromosomes. So dad could pass on. If we're talking about, it's going to let me draw up here. Let's use. Okay. There's my sperm cell. There's my egg cell. Understand that each sperm cell, each egg cell has 23 chromosomes. We know that dad has 46, though. So here's the thing about genetics. If we're talking about the first set of chromosomes, dad can either put that chromosome in from group 1, or he could put, when I say he has no choice in the matter, but one chromosome from group 1 will go in. Which one? It depends. Now, one from group 2 will go in. Which one? It depends. Then one from 3, one from 4, one from 5. Same thing about mom's eggs. She's only going to put one chromosome from group 1 in, one chromosome from group 2. So think of all the possibilities that can occur from this. So the sperm that fertilized the egg that created you is totally different, as far as probability speaking, than the sperm that fertilized the egg that created your brother or sister. All based on probability of which chromosome is going to end up in this. And this is mitosis, guys. Meiosis. We're going to talk about meiosis probably next week.
I kind of thought of something like, you know TJ Bean?
Mm-hmm.
Like him and his brother look like very similar.
Yep.
Would that be possible because one of their parents has a lot more dominant genes?
Not necessarily. Yeah, it's not necessarily that one has a lot more dominant genes. It's just the fact that the sperm that fertilized the egg, they had more similarities as far as which chromosomes were in that sperm and egg. Okay? So as you see here, guys, depending on what color is shown down here, that's the sperm that I almost said pollinated, that fertilized the egg. Now, the next child will not have this order of colors. It'll be a completely different order because of the chromosomes in the sperm and egg cell. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So let's clear this up. Anyone need me to fill in any of these blanks for you? Those were simply just watching those animations and listening and or reading, and it will have you fill it in as you go. And this last bit here was simply looking at your traits, seeing which ones you have.
What was number 24 and
24 and 25. The person with an big H, small h, so homo or heterozygous genotype would have the, was it the straight or the bent? Straight. Straight thumb.
What is the trait of hand clasp?
So if you clap your hands, which hand is on top, which is on bottom?
I just said yes.
Yes. I don't think it was a yes/no answer. All right. But if you were to do this, which thumb is on top? Mine's the right.
Is it left if you're left? Yeah, so it's
I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's look at this last one here before we move on. Let's look at, hey guys, I know everyone's really excited about figuring out what their genetics are, but let me go over the monohybrid crosses here because you're going to be doing a little paper-based lab today on monohybrid crosses. I'm going to wait until I have everyone's attention. These worksheets for monohybrid crosses, the monohybrid, what does mono mean? One. We're dealing with one trait. On Tuesday, we're going to be dealing with dihybrid crosses, 2 traits. So this is the easiest of all of the crosses we're going to do. So let's look at, no. There we go. It did say pedigree, yes. All right, so match the definitions on the left with the terms on the right. So genotypes made of the same alleles. What's that going to be? D. Homozygous, very good. Different forms of genes for a single trait. A. That's an allele. That's when you have the different forms on the homologous chromosomes. Gene that is always expressed. Dominant, B. Gene that is expressed only if the homozygous state, which means 2 small little ones, which is going to be recessive, E. And genotypes made of 2 different alleles, that is going to be C, heterozygous. All right? Any questions with the first part? Lovely. Let's move on then. Next one. So I want to circle the allele that shows dominant. Capital, 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 capital. Those are dominant alleles. Recessive alleles. Lowercase, 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 lowercase. Questions with those? All right, I'm going to cruise on through here. If I'm cruising too fast, please let me know. What is going on here? Yeah, I kind of noticed that. Homozygous dominant. So we are looking for homozygous means the same alleles, dominant means uppercase. There are those. Homozygous recessive means 2 of the same alleles but small, recessive. Nope, that's not one. I thought it was 2 little m's. So there it is. Just those 2 are homozygous recessive. Wait. Oh, yeah, those are 2 little W's. Sorry, I thought they were 2 big W's when I re-looked. Thank you, I appreciate that. Feeling a little anxious today. Number 10, genotypes in which dominant gene must show. Well, technically, the dominant gene will show there. The dominant gene will show there. Dominant will show there. Dominant will show there. Dominant will show there. Dominant will show there. Genotypes in which the recessive gene must show. It's got to be paired with another recessive. Okay. Questions on that section? Good. That was the easiest section on here. Part B, Punnett squares. Examine the following Punnett squares and circle those that are correct. So again, another thing I want you to understand about Punnett squares is, what are these guys? Use their alleles. Okay? What is happening here is, these are acting as, we just talked about how sperm and egg get 23 chromosomes each. These up here, guys, I want you to understand that what's on the top and what's on the side, these are the gametes. So what that means is, if this is dad's genotype on the top for a specific trait, this will go into one sperm cell, this will go into another sperm cell. That's why it's separated. This is known as the law of segregation. So we know that for every trait we have, each sperm and each egg cell will only have one allele for that trait. That's why when they fertilize, the new embryo will have two. So gametes on the side, gametes on the top. When the gametes come together, that's known as fertilization. Fantastic. This is fertilization in the middle. So are these correct? That's correct, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. That's good. Second one. Is this correct? No. Not right. So we have heterozygous. Big A, big A, big A, not right, correct, not correct. So half of that Punnett square is not right. Big A, small a, little a, little a. Good, this one's correct. Okay. Yep, questions with that? Good, you guys, hopefully this is fantastic. What do the letters on the outside of the Punnett square stand for? I just answered that. The gametes. That is the sperm and the egg cells. So those are gametes. What do the letters on the inside of the Punnett square stand for? Fertilization or the embryo that's going to result from that. Sure. Yeah, there's different stages of development of that. I guess zygote would be the best answer. It's the first stage. All right, 15. In corn plants, normal height, N, is dominant, and short height is recessive, which is shown as little n. Complete these 4 Punnett squares showing different crosses. Then shade red, the homozygous dominant offspring. Shade green, all the heterozygous offspring. Leave all homozygous recessive offspring unshaded. So we have combination here of the gametes. If this sperm fuses with this egg, it's going to produce an offspring with that. If this sperm fertilizes this egg, so this sperm and this egg, we're going to have big N, little n, big N, little n, big N, little n. I'm not going to do the shading. I'm just going to go through and do the crosses. So if this sperm fertilizes this egg, we are going to have homozygous dominant. If this sperm fertilizes this egg, we are going to have heterozygous. Homozygous dominant, heterozygous. Going over here, big N, big N, big N, little n, big N, little n, little n, little n. Going to the fourth one, if this sperm fertilizes this egg, big N, little n, little n, little n, big N, little n, little n, little n. So we can go through, guys. I could ask you, what are the genotypic and phenotypic ratios? Don't let those huge terms freak you out. If I'm talking about the genotypic ratios, I want to know how many are there of each heterozygous, homozygous, dominant, and homozygous recessive. So in this case, they're all heterozygous. All right? So it's going to be 100% heterozygous. For this one, if I'm asking about the genotypic ratio, it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. 1, technically 2 to 2, but we can reduce that. There's 2 homozygous dominant, 2 heterozygous. We can reduce that to 1-to-1 ratio. If I ask about the phenotypic ratio, well, what are these going to show? This is going to be normal height, normal height, normal height, normal height. Normal height, normal height, normal height, normal height. Normal, 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 small. Normal, normal, small, small. Okay? So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open this up now to questions. If you guys want me to do or answer any particular ones that you did not get, I gave you the basic foundation here. Are there any on here that you did not get that you would like me to go over?
No, I got it. Not coach. Put me a coach.
Anybody?
Why are you guys calling him coach?
I have no idea.
You're my coach of science.
Life coach.
Life coach. You're my coach of body.
I coach life. I coach life skills.
Soccer.
And I coached baseball for a while. Any questions? All right, I'm going to stop this. If you did not complete this and you want to do it for a few extra points for the homework, have at it. 20? I will do 20, yes. All right, well, if there's, so let's look at 20. All right, let's look at 20. In humans, being a tongue roller is dominant over a non-tongue roller. A man who is a non-roller marries a woman who is heterozygous for tongue rolling. So here's the deal. A man who is a non-tongue roller. So if the man is a non-tongue roller, what is his genotype? Smaller. Marries a woman who is heterozygous for tongue rolling. Heterozygous, good. 2 different alleles. Big R, little r. So father's phenotype, they're simply asking for no rolling. Mother's phenotype, roller. Father's genotype, small r. Mother's genotype, big R, small r. So now, what we're doing here is the law of segregation, which says, hey guys, law of segregation states that these alleles will separate when sperm and egg are created. So now we can just do the cross. If this sperm cell fertilizes this egg cell, it's going to be heterozygous. That child will be able to roll their tongue. If this sperm cell fertilizes this egg cell, the child will be heterozygous, will be able to roll their tongue. And then finally down here, if the recessive alleles meet, if dad and mom both pass on recessive, non-tongue rolling. So there's a 50-50 chance of the child being born can roll their tongue. Can everyone roll their tongue in here? Can anyone not roll their tongue? Can you roll your tongue? You're tongue-tied? 21? Jerry, just want me to do 21? Okay, let's do 21. All right, hey guys, this is the last one I will do unless there are more questions. 21. It says brown eyes in humans is dominant to blue eyes. So whatever letters you want to use. I'm right now just going to put a big B over brown. I'm going to put a small b over blue. A brown-eyed man whose mother was blue-eyed marries a brown-eyed woman whose father has blue eyes. This one was a little tougher. What is the probability that this couple will have a blue-eyed child? So I don't come right out and tell you what their genotypes are. But let's look at this. So I'm going to say man, woman. If we're talking about the man here, we know that the man's mom had blue eyes. So what was her phenotype or genotype? If he has brown eyes, what did his father's genotype have to be? Well, it could have been upper B or lower B. Sure, we know there had to have been one dominant allele that dad passed on. Okay? So therefore, just wait 1 second. We know then that he is big B, small b. Mom had no other choice but to pass on a recessive allele. If he's brown-eyed, his father had to pass on a big B to make him brown-eyed. All right? The mother. Where's here? Whose mother marries a brown-eyed woman whose father had blue eyes. Same deal here. If this woman's father had blue eyes, the father had no choice but to pass on a small b. But what did this woman's mother have to pass on? A big B. So therefore, what we're seeing here is our cross is going to be a straight-up heterozygous cross, meaning that there is a what % chance that the offspring will be blue-eyed? 1 out of 4, 25% chance. Yes. Any other questions on this? You are going to get more practice right now on this stuff. Yep.
If somebody has a heterozygous dominant, does that mean they're less able
Yep.
Does that mean they're worse at blowing the
No.
tongue?
Not at all.
Worse